every person I've talked to that they asked me what I do, I've always wanted to get into storage. Like I always drive by and think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
We make that a reality for people that they would just be dreaming about that their whole life. Instead, we're like, yeah, like come on in, take a piece. Most of them are friends and family who I care about and love. This is an asset that's going to get them 20 to 50% on their money where they were stuck in a 401k for single-digit returns. In the last 2 weeks, we've gotten more deal flow than we have in the whole time I've been in this. There's amazing deals that you're going to see in the next 12, 18 months that you'll never see again.
What's going on, everybody? Man, George, do we have an incredible episode going on self-storage income today with the one and only Ben Gottfredson. Incredible dude.
Yeah, 100% Connor. So in today's podcast today with Ben, we talk about how Ben has scaled to 15 facilities. We talk about some of the biggest lessons that he's learned throughout the years. We talk about lawsuits that he's avoided, how he was able to get into a partnership, zero money down by taking someone out to lunch. And we talk about how he's really grown as a leader. And I think for anyone listening to this podcast today, you're gonna learn a lot of someone who started off small, buying a deal on their own, and then when they allowed other people to come along for the ride, Ben is now scaled to 15 facilities. And so there's a lot of powerful stuff that we go through in today's episode.
There really is. And talking about the granular or tactical pieces of each of those things, including stuff that like you wouldn't even consider, right? Like some of the soft skills we talked about on today's episode and building relationships, some of that just stuff that is not on the radar for a lot of us when we're jumping into these different industries and looking to invest and buy businesses and grow. Really, really important things to grow as a human being and build partnerships. That's another thing that I love that we talked about today is how he's structured some of these deals with these partners, his philosophy of, wanting that portion of a watermelon versus, doing everything on his own and only having, the grape to have, right? So a lot of value in today's episode. So excited for all you guys to jump in and soak it up, take notes, and get ready to learn from one of the best. Welcome back, everybody, to the Self-Storage Income Podcast. Dude, do we have a freaking epic episode for you guys today. We've got Big Ben. Ben's in the house again. Been on a long time ago. He's done some incredible things in the self-storage world. George, you excited to dive in and have him on today or what?
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome episode today. This is Ben's second time on the podcast. So he was first on and at the end of 2023. You guys can go check that out. It's episode 217. And in that one, you can learn about how Ben bought his first facility, getting started in a small town. But now we have Ben back on here, 2 years later and kind of get the update, everything that he's done since then, because it's been a lot. So Ben, thank you so much for being here, man.
Hey, I'm happy to be on. They had AJ interview me last time, but they brought in the big guns. Like self-storage income really wanted some really max value.
That's
so
right.
They brought the best hosts, George and Connor. I'm really excited to be here with you boys. So thanks for having me.
Likewise, man. No, great to have you. So yeah, I mean, there's only a few things different from 2023 to 2025 now in your world, in the storage world. Give us an update, man. Like, what have you been up to? How are things?
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like 2023, we were on our way down. I feel like in 2025, we're bottoming out, right? Like, big thing that jumps out is that sellers, the reality check hadn't really hit yet. So, and they were still 2021. And you see some of that today. But for the most part, the reality check has hit. And,
yeah,
we're seeing a feast as far as deals go. And the funny thing is, it's a famine on some of your metrics, like some of your deals, you're not able to raise rents as aggressively as you want. And some of your deals are taking longer to get off the ground. But so there's famine on one side, but feast on the other. And we're just gearing up for the next market cycle where we know deals won't be this plentiful in years to come, but our returns will just keep getting better. So playing the cards we're being dealt.
Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Because I saw your Instagram post the other day. It was a story or something. And you were talking about that feast famine and how it can be feast or famine, in times when deals are tough and there's other things are going on. So it's like that might be famine for that piece of the business, but it's a feast in the other piece of the business. You kind of want to break down like both sides of that a little bit more.
Yeah, so in the last 2 weeks, we've gotten more deal flow than we have in the whole time I've been in this, like six plus years or whatever. So it's like we're getting people that are coming to us, we're getting deals under contract, we're getting opportunities and leads. The capital's there right now as well. People want to place money, get the tax benefits by the end of the year. So it's finally that season where we're getting seller financing deals. We're getting people listening to our offers in more volume than we have in the past. And yeah, like from the outside looking in, you see people getting out of the game. You see a lot of people that just thought this was like a get rich quick scheme, and they're realizing it's really not. And we're very fortunate, like our deals are doing very well and we have advantages that other people don't have, so we're not getting hurt as bad. Like I'm alluding to like the moving company and our economies of scale with our storage operation. But still, like we wish that we were in 2021 from an operator's perspective, because there were just so many more real estate transactions, so many more high rents, and the game was just so different back then. But we just have to keep that perspective of this is the feast for deals and the famine for maybe like our returns, right? Or like what this asset's capable of. But in the near future, the returns will start to correct and the deals will dry up. That's kind of what we're talking about. And there was an SBA guy who I went to for an SBA loan, and he said, I feel like you're overextending yourself. Like I feel like you guys are doing too much right now, honestly. And I said, look, we've been buying deals. Like if you can picture like a graph, we've been buying deals all the way down. Like from the peak of the market in 21, we've been buying deals all the way down, and now the market's bottoming out. We're at the bottom. Like how can you tell me as the market's about to go back up to slow down now? So that's kind of how I feel about it.
So, I mean, I remember AJ. Well, AJ says this all the time. Like, I never let banks tell me what I can afford, and I feel like that's literally that happening to you right there of someone saying like, "Hey, man, like, chill out," basically, and you're like, "No," you're like, "This is what I've been waiting for."
Well,
So,
I mean, he told me flat out, like, you better be careful. Like, you're having a reputation of someone that's overextending. It's like, no, like you see the market right now today, you're not looking at this in a 5-year lens. Like
yeah.
you're a very close-minded, like looking at today's market, it's not smart to get into this deal for the next 3 or 4 months. It's not.
It's basically like you're looking at the same thing, but he's seeing risk and you're seeing opportunity. So, can you talk about that lens of that?
It's very, very simple. It's like they're seeing developments dry up, they're seeing rents come down, they're seeing occupancies fall. They're seeing all the signs of, oh, we don't want to lend on this right now. But I'm seeing like, oh my gosh, I'm getting this on a discount, because if I'm paying a high cap rate today on this underperforming asset, like we don't know if we're on the front end of the bottom or the back end of the bottom. Like that's not for us to say, but we know we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so that's the lens I see it through. And a good banker will see it through that lens. But this is a new banker. He just got in the game, and so he doesn't see it that way.
What I think what's important about that is that there's so many people will come through and listen to, maybe this is their first podcast that they're listening to, and they're like, I'm trying to learn about storage, like what type of market am I getting into right now? And if their first conversation is with a lender who's saying like, now's not the time, you're over leveraging yourself, like that can totally change their situation of what they're doing that. But what I think it's important for them to be able to see, like, no, all of those struggles that facilities are having is the opportunity for you as the buyer. That's why now is the time to come in. So it's like amazing that you're on here saying that.
You guys heard me tell the story of my second deal, probably our deal that was like the deal we bought at the peak, and we've been trying to keep that deal going through this whole market cycle. And the bank gave me a loan for 8 figures. They gave me like a $10 million, $12 million plus loan for that deal. And I actually had to go back to the bank and say like, hey, we're actually going to shrink the scope of this. And so my point in bringing that up is banks in 2022, they were riding the high of 2021, and they were lending to anyone, even me. And admittedly, they shouldn't have given me that big of a loan. I had to tell them we needed to shrink the loan.
Mm-hmm.
And now they should be lending, and they're fearful because they're looking in the rear. They're looking at the past. They're not looking at the present or the future. And so it goes both ways.
Yeah. No, those are such good points, and really good points too that you brought up, George, as far as like people's first conversations. Because I mean, it's kind of like the kid going to the parents or the adult and like expecting like the adult to just know everything, like have all the answers. And like you go to these people that are like the quote unquote experts, and you're expecting them to be that adult and show you the path and what's right and wrong. And yeah, if they come out like, no, yeah, the market's terrible, shouldn't do it. That could totally derail somebody and those ambitions, and in a way that's not well informed. So it's so important to get that information and that insight from people like you, Ben, who are going through this stuff every day. And man, I don't know how many times we need to hear this stuff from like Warren Buffett and these guys, but it's like when everybody's zigging, like you're supposed to zag when there's blood in the water, like all these things, but yet the banks, investors, everybody do the exact opposite every time. Like it's so wild.
It's exactly right.
Can you talk about what your team looks like today? So like your first deal, I know you said that you did that by yourself, and you look it's wildly different now. So can you talk about what your team looks like and how that impacts how you look at deals? Because it's not just supporting yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many changes because that first deal was just like my life savings and me. Now we basically scaled to the point where we did a top-down scale. And to explain that a little bit more, I hired the most expensive, the most important person, and that's my partner, my CEO, Callan. You guys know him. He did every job at first, and we've been plugging in all the other roles since then. So on the private equity side, Big Storage Ventures, we have Jack, who's our head of acquisitions, underwriting, investor relations, and then we have cold callers that are finding leads for him to go kind of close. And then on the ops side, Sean is our COO who kind of oversees all the managers, all the special projects, all the CapEx. And then Lala does all the finance, back end. And then we have all of our on-site managers who they kind of have double roles where they're managing their sites, but they're the ones that are working full time, the bigger facilities where we run U-Hauls out of. They're also taking calls for all of the facilities all over the nation. And then we have just boots on the ground at our smaller facilities. So it's growing. There's, we're a 15-person team-ish on the storage front.
That is incredible. So you're kind of doing like a hybrid, like some of the smaller facilities, you're running more remote, having somebody go through a couple times a week, but then you do have some of those like full-time staff facilities as well.
Yeah, like if there's a asset that just will not make sense to have someone there, whether it's small or there's no room for an office, or we do use U-Haul at a few of our facilities to pay for the on-site manager. I know that this is a split topic at Cedar Creek where I don't think you guys do a ton of U-Haul, but we believe that if the U-Haul can pay for their salary plus maybe a little bit, and it can keep someone there at the desk, they can use their free time to answer calls, work on projects for the other facilities, and there's some economies of scale there. And then we also have them handle, all the on-site walk-ins and the cleanup and sweep outs and overlocks.
Well, I think with the U-Haul too, like you can make money in any way, right? So it's like even if Cedar doesn't do it, it's more just it's outside of our circle of competence. And so like we get that question all the time from whether it's in the community or on the podcast, like, hey, I'm underwriting a facility with a U-Haul. Like, should I look at this or not? And it's like it's up to you. Like just because we don't do it doesn't mean you shouldn't. So how do you look at that, I guess, on the underwriting side, Ben? Like do you underwrite the two businesses differently? Like how do you tie that in if you're seeing opportunity with the moving company or U-Haul?
Yeah, the U-Haul, we try to tell the bank that it counts, but we try to underwrite with the seller as if it doesn't, right? So we try to tell the seller like, look, the bank's not going to take this, so we can't really count it. We can pay you a better cap rate on your storage income, but we're basically not including the U-Haul. And then to the bank, we try to tell them, hey, look, this is real income. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
Nice.
it's sketchy. Like we bought a facility and we thought that the U-Haul was just going to stay open like without a hitch, and it shut down for like 2 weeks while we had to get it back up, and we were questioning if we could get it back going. So luckily it's just like it's back up now, like it never missed a beat. But it is something you got to consider. It's something you have to weigh. It's something that we feel like with some economies of scale and people on the phones backing each other up, it doesn't really hurt us that bad, and it covers what I would consider a lot. Anytime you can have someone on site, especially in this digital age, that's a way that you can stand out, is if you have someone on site and if you have something paying for it. Because if it was just the storage income, you got to be up over 70,000 plus square feet to really justify having someone on site full time, if at all, And then a lot of our facilities, well, we have some facilities bigger than that, but a lot of them are not. And so in order to justify it, we kind of need that U-Haul to pay their salary.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome like pro tip, if you will, Ben, like being able to bring in some kind of revenue stream that not only pays for the individual to be there, to have this employee and this asset there to perform things not only for that facility, but even to consolidate some of those administrative tasks to like one spot or one area. That's the problem too. I think a lot of people at scale will get into. It's like they start having 100 different people doing these same things. It's like, well, it'd actually be a lot easier to coordinate with like the 4 people that are the experts doing those things, that you could consolidate that stuff to. Like, what are some of those? I know that's like one example, like using U-Haul, paying the salary of having an on-site employee, doing some consolidation there. What are some other like pro tips and things that you might have as you've grown and scaled and you're like, dude, this is working great?
Like you said, we do have some compartmentalized roles, right? So we'll have, okay, you're manning this facility, you're in charge of U-Hauls and walk-ins, but then on the phones, like one person might be inbound sales. So like you're running this facility, but then when you're not being bothered, you have inbound sales. And then you are working this other facility, you have outbound sales, all the leads that are coming in. And then someone else just has inbound customer service, right? Existing customers. And so one person has delinquencies, right? Like one thing that we've really cracked down on is just trying to make sure that we're caught up on delinquencies and auctions, just the fundamentals. Like there's really, I don't know that we've cracked the code on like any secrets, but it's just staying up on the basics, making sure you're not falling behind on your business plan.
Love it, dude. Yeah, that was one of the things that we would talk about a lot is there's no silver bullets, right? It's just all the things, all the mundane things that you do every day that really matter, that stack in your favor. Just those fundamental things of great service, great product, and giving the people what they want, man. So no, that's good stuff. And I wanted to know, man, I really admire that approach that you're taking from like hiring top down. And there's not a lot of organizations and people that do that. It's like, what's the cheapest possible way that I can hire somebody to do something? It's almost not even looked at as like an investment to grow the business, or to like, what inspired that path for you, man? How did you decide like that was the way to go? I love that.
Well, I think a combination of things. Like for one, I don't necessarily it's worked out great, and I think we had the team to do it. But I've scaled the business bottom up, and I think that's how most of our listeners are going to need to do it. And that's not a bad thing. If you have the resources to scale top down, obviously that's going to be a great play for you. It comes down to, what do you need more, time or money? And so for me, when I was scaling my moving company, I needed money more. So I needed to give the cheapest spots away first. And I could go line by line about every role in the company and how I would pass off the cheapest roles first until I have a full C-suite, and like the expensive positions are in place. But with the storage business, I knew I wanted to grow fast. I didn't have the patience to wait and do bottom up. And I already had the moving company. So I knew my time was more important. Like I needed to do this fast versus cheap. And then Callan, he has a whole story about how he's working for an asphalt company that just flipped a storage facility for 10 million bucks in a couple years. They timed it well, but he's my best friend, and I trusted his work ethic and his, and who he was as a person. So that really helped, me bite off that big salary, that big partnership, to have him come in and do a top down scaling system.
It's cool you've been able to do it both ways too, and because like you said, a lot of it comes down to not that one is better than the other, but what situation are you in right now. Like if you're strapped for capital, like you're not going to be able to pay the highest person for that. There are other ways you could do it if you decide to partner with someone and give up equity, but a lot of it just is like, what situation are you in and how is that going to help you towards your goals? So it's cool that you were able to kind of feel out both sides of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this and you already have means, you're a busy medical professional or a builder or a real estate professional, you're already doing good. Like maybe you need to cut someone else in at the top to achieve your goals, right? To get what you want, which is a piece of this amazing asset class while we're in the golden age, the best, especially today. Like if you wanted to start a storage business today, you're short on time, like to get these amazing deals that you're going to see in the next 12, 18 months that you'll never see again. And so now's a great time to go for speed and cut someone else in at the top where, like honestly, a lot of people they need every cent of returns that come back from this asset class to change their lifestyle, to achieve their goals. And yeah, you're going to be hiring VAs and the managers for the boots on the ground and sweep outs. And that's okay. Like that's the way that I think most people should go about it. But I think you're right. It's totally situational. It's totally about your goals. What can you do? How committed are you? Those are the types of questions that are really fun to ask.
We're really talking about business here and building a business and what that looks like. So, and I know you've talked about this, like you spoke at our event recently, but you talked a lot about soft skills. And so how is that tied into you as a leader? Like how do you motivate people? What are you focused on? What is your approach for building your team?
Yeah, good question. The soft skills are what they don't teach you in school, right? Like that really is, it's almost more just a part of who you are. Like how good of a communicator are you? How good of a listener are you? How good of a decision maker are you? That's really where the money is made, right? Because in my mind, like you have almost three levels of skills. You have like the grunt labor skills, then you have the technical skills, which are like I see those as like, your financial modeling, your accountants, your those types, and then you have your soft skills, the people that are making the decisions. And I mean, I guess I don't have a lot of the skills in the middle. Like through the inner circle and stuff, I've learned a lot about finance and I've learned a lot about underwriting and all the numbers piece of self-storage. But I mean, my real superpower I lean into is both with my executive team and also sellers, just listening to how do they need to be communicated to so that they're getting what they need and we're coming away with a win-win situation. And, we talked about several different deals where that's been the deciding factor of getting the deal or not, or coming away with a big win is the soft skills. And, we brought up Callan. I'm having a conversation with him now. He's so good with numbers. He has a master's in accounting. But just yesterday I said, Callan, you need to decide, are you the CEO or are you the CFO? He's been both this whole time. And it's no more like we came to a fork in the road just yesterday where we brought in, a guy that I want to be our CFO. And I said, you need to give up one or the other. But I think he has the soft skills and he has the decision-making, critical thinking to be the CEO, but he's got to give up some control of all the financials and everything he's been doing. And so that's what we're going through right now.
Well, by the time this episode's out, we're gonna have to get the outcome of it.
Yeah, little cliffhanger, man. I mean, talking about like giving up control, man. How has that been for you and your team as you've grown and scaled? And have you figured out a good process for walking through that?
It's, I guess, my personality is one that is big picture, right? Like, and I feel like perfection is the enemy of excellence, right? So like a lot of people, they get, I call it paralysis by analysis, where they want to be perfect so bad that they don't get where they need to go. And so for me, I strive for excellence, and that's our core value is, you know, being excellent in everything. But I'm not going to give people the opportunity to grow if I hang on to everything. And they tell this story of a dad teaching his boy to mow the lawn. It would be a lot easier if the dad mowed the lawn every week, especially when that kid's young. But how is that kid ever going to know how to mow the lawn? And how is the lawn ever going to get mowed without the dad doing it? And so it's the same thing in business. And you have to have accountability in place to make sure that doesn't, you don't neglect accountability and follow up and training. You still have to have all that, but you just, to scale a business, you have to give up perfectionism, and you have to attach excellence to all the decision making of giving stuff up.
No, that's fantastic, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. One of the things I had thought about as well, you were talking about like soft skills. I love that you brought this up, George. You shared an awesome story that I'd love to have you share here. Of it must have been like a wholesale deal, I think it was, where like they were super upset, and you were like, "Hey, let's go to coffee." And it was like this total, like totally unorthodox. There's not a whole lot of people that invite somebody out that's like threatening to sue everybody to coffee. Like that's not something that people do. Like they shut down, they get defensive, all those things. Like, can you just share that story? Because I think it's freaking gold, man.
We got a wholesaler who brought us a deal, Salt Lake City. It's like our dream market, and the price was right. Like we didn't care what their markup was, you know, like we're ready to go. And so the problem was that the wholesaler was puppy guarding it. To make a long story short, like I've learned since then through this experience that when a contract is assigned, you need to take over. Like it's assigned. But they said, "Oh, let us keep talking to the seller for you." And long story short, they did get us in a lawsuit to where, you know, we wanted to perform. We had everything lined up with banks and partners to transact, and the seller was under the impression that the deal was off because of this wholesaler. And so we got on a big three-way call, like you alluded to, and it was a yelling match. It was a cursing match. And I was, you know, like these guys are old Greek, stubborn, successful. They've been doing real estate for decades more than I have. And they're like, we're going to fight. Like, we're going to keep this thing. And I talked to my attorney who said, yeah, you got a case. Like you're in the right. You should sue them. And so we were entrenching ourselves for a big blow up lawsuit. And, you know, the sad thing is like, we were probably going to win, but it could have taken 12 to 24 months. And so kind of as like a last stitch Hail Mary, I called them up and said, like you said, like, hey, let's go to breakfast and let's see what we can do here. And it was just me. I was, you know, this was, I don't know, 4 years ago. I was probably 27 years old. And it's these two Greek guys. They were way experienced. They brought their nephew with them, probably as a bodyguard. And they were just like, you know, like it started like a little uptight, a little nervous, but I think the soft skill, like, hey, tell me what you're after. Like, how can we work together? None of us want this. Like, we're all on the same team here. And I think that what I walked away with from a lawsuit that probably would have killed, you know, it would have killed any sweetness or returns out of it. We walked away with a no money down deal where we basically kept everything the same, except they got to stay in on half the deal. So they felt like they were getting, after they found out there was a wholesaler marking it up, you know, they felt ripped off. That was the gist of it. And so they got to stay in and only sell us half. So they got a big payout. They got some of their money out, and then they got to stay in as 50-50 partners for the ride. And they had a young, hungry partner to go operate this thing, and they just get a check every month. But for us, like, we didn't think we would get a no money down deal, half a storage facility for no money down. And I do credit soft skills, because there was no, nothing I could send to them in a legal form or a paper to show them, hey, you're wrong, I'm right. I have all these legal forms. Like, here's the law, here's the paper trail. Like, that wouldn't have worked with these guys, but just listening and building trust ended up winning us that deal. And you can't understate it. I'm using soft skills every day with sellers, team, everybody.
I think there's so many lessons in that too. Like, first off, the deal, that's amazing. Like, how do you determine your return on investment for something you put no money down on that you get to own up this facility on? So first off, there's like what that meant for the literal deal is crazy. But then just like, even for people, like if you're listening and you don't have a deal and you're looking for your first deal, you don't have a team with you, it's just you on your own. Like, those soft skills are things that, like, we live in the world of AI and jobs being replaced, like that will never be replaced. Being able to build a relationship, especially in storage, like it's a relatively small industry compared to like residential homes or other businesses. And so we have so many VA cold callers or direct mail and all these things, but being able to go meet with a seller in person is like, I hear this from brokers too. Like, I just feel like that's coming back, like being able to, people just miss talking to a human, especially if they've owned this thing for 10, 20 years. It's like their baby. They don't just want to be like sent a power dialer and then be like, hey, sell me your deal. So there's so many things you can do here beyond just like, not everyone's going to have that crazy story that you just had, but they can still benefit from having soft skills in their life.
100%. And we're using it every day. The human touch makes a big difference to people. And I think, there's some people that are, hey, I'm no nonsense. A lot of those experienced people that are representing like bigger companies, they're just like, it's kind of I don't want to say offensive, but just like, I was like, hey, can we take you to lunch? Like, let's talk this over. He's like, I'm not a lunch guy. Don't waste my time. That was a one-time thing out of dozens of times that I've done it, and it's played out to be in our favor. And
Dude,
so,
that's so funny. That's so funny. That's huge, man, because I think that's something that's discounted a lot, man. People don't talk about those things enough. Um, and you have to remember at the end of the day, things are all built on relationships, and it reminds me a ton of the How to Win Friends and Influence People book, where it's like essentially like you're not going to change people's minds, dude. You got these people out here, they've made their minds up about things. Like, you're never going to change somebody's mind. So like, don't even try. Like, just go and build the relationship, and amazing things happen from people just getting to know you, getting to like you, being able to be like, oh, dude, yeah, I know Ben. He's like such a good dude. Like, we got together this one time, went to breakfast, and like talked me out of suing him, and he's a great guy. So like those things go so far, and I think, I don't know, like, why do you guys think more people don't do that? Do you think it's like how much time and effort it takes and like attention? Because you actually have to put effort into it and be conscious about those things. Like, why do you think that is not an area of focus for so many of us?
I gotta say that part of it is just experience doing it. Like, a lot of people are never put out of their comfort zone that way. I think it's a skill that even if you grew up in the 90s, obviously today it's a technology world. That's the reason that the younger generation, Gen Z, isn't doing it because of technology. But like, I think there's a lot of people that are introverted that maybe they've had bad experiences, or they were never put in an environment where they needed to develop those soft skills to that level, right? Because you do have to be a very, very careful listener, careful at asking good questions. And so I feel like that's part of it. And then, yeah, I mean, I do feel like it's work, and maybe people do think that it's not a good ROI to do that human connection, because it's not as scalable as sending out 1,000 postcards or sending out 1,000 emails. Like, you can only be in one place at one time. And so I think, you're going to get your leads with maybe less soft skills, but then you're going to close your leads with your soft skills, right? And that's where identifying where is your time best spent, and where can you lend your soft skills to. And I think that's the key, because you can't scale a business off of soft skills, but you can use it at critical moments.
Like, what I would add to that too is like, it's harder to measure soft skills, like whether it's from data or like a college degree or certificate. Like you can say I have a master's in accounting or I completed this coding boot camp, but it's very hard to be like I have soft skills. Like if you're going to look for jobs, like that's almost seen as like the secondary like ancillary benefits, but not the main piece to it. And then so like you just mentioned the timeline of the 90s. I feel like that phase of life was so trained like go to school, then go to college and get a good job. But then it's like the soft skills really comes into the starting a business mindset, which I think a lot of people who did the traditional route of college are like, well, that what didn't work the way I wanted it to. And so now I feel like these soft skills are kind of becoming more of the forefront again of like, these are the things that I really need. And these are the main focus. And all these other technical skills are, they're so good to have, of course, but without the soft skills, like you can't communicate. No matter what you do, you need to be able to communicate with other people in storage or any business, really.
I know for me, I don't look at people's education. Like if they tell me they have a skill set, like I got a finance degree and an accounting degree, that's great. But
Yeah.
here's the crazy thing is, remember how I told you yesterday, there's this guy that we're trying to have be the CFO. He just finished his master's degree, but he's been working for me in sales for years. And I'm not hiring him because of like his finance education will help him this much compared to what Callan's going to train him on in the first. He will learn more about finance in the first month of working with us and actually doing it than he learned in the last 7 years, getting his bachelor's in finance and then his master's. You know what I mean? It's like the degree really means very, very little compared to the soft skills, even in a technical hat like that. But just like it's trust building, it's decision making. So that he might, part of soft skills is the critical thinking and being able to communicate decisions. And so I'm just saying, we don't look at resumes and who people have. And I don't think very many companies are looking at degrees as they're not weighted as heavily these days.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it seems like for sure. I know you talked about, I mean, we hit on the deal where you made that happen with the folks that were super upset with the wholesale thing, doing the 50-50 split like that. I know you've partnered a ton, dude. Like, what do some of these partnerships look like? Like, that's probably one of the most common questions that we see a lot of times where, especially people just starting out, people trying to scale, like, they're trying to figure out like what are some of the textbook ways people are like structuring the deals when they're bringing partners in. Can you share any of that information and like how you've structured some of these?
So we are the minority partner in every deal. I think that's a big thing to bring up. And one of the things that people really I saw a couple people taking notes. I didn't think this was this big of a deal, but when I said I'd rather have half a watermelon than 100% of a grape, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people clicked in their mind like, oh, like I would rather have that, And I feel like that's the spirit because I did a deal by my own on my own. I could have just waited 3 or 4 years, saved up more money, done another one. But I wanted to get a piece of dozens of deals every year. That's my vision. And so I would rather cut people in who want to come along for the ride. And so our partnerships, I'll tell you, everything I can about them. So I start with the asset itself and what kind of return can this get, right? And our target, when we see a buy signal, our biggest thing is, can we get someone a 20 to 50% return? And that's the biggest signal. And we're pretty conservative in our underwriting, so we know that there's deals that we're going to get a 75% return or better, right? But that's really where we look at the asset and say, okay, that's what matters the most is the offering.
And real quick, is that based off a refinance?
Yeah, that includes the cash flow, and then the refinance in the first 5 years, or you can look at 10 years, whatever it is. Like everyone has to be on board with the timeline, but that's what it's based off of is cash flow and refinance. And then obviously there's the tax benefits of a refinance and the tax benefits of a cost seg study that are just cherries on top, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to end up with a split, right? And you're going to give the majority of the deal to the people that put the money in. And that could be 60%, it could be 80%. Usually we land around 70 or 65%. So they call it the LP side. We like to call it the Class A side because we don't want to call it limited. But that's just kind of a little joke we have with our company because they don't want to be the limited partner. They want to be the Class A partner. But that's the capital. And then on the GP, like there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can give up a piece for the deal finder. So some people will find a deal and then like this is what we've done multiple times. Like we have a handful of deals where someone has found a deal. They basically don't know how to negotiate or underwrite it, but they have the lead and we cut them a piece of the GP just for finding it. And that's a really cool way to get into a deal. Like if you have an in, you could have a piece of the cut, like just for the introduction. Also, whoever does the operations is going to get the GP and so on, right? So that there's ways that you can chop up the general partnership, and we're working on partnerships like that all the time. And some of the deals we do everything where we find it, we take it from start to finish and keep the whole GP. And then others we give up GP or someone will bring us a deal and we'll partner on that side. And then within our whatever big storage ventures, whatever we own, there's shares that go to me and then Talon and Jack, my partners, right? So that's the answer to how we cut our deals up.
So what's the end result of that? So like you said, hey, I could have done it myself and I bought one deal on my own and I could have waited a few years and done it. And so what's the snapshot of what it looks like for you now that you've brought other people in?
Yeah, well, I would be on deal 2 right now. I'd probably be okay. Like that would be a result that a lot of people would be thrilled about. These are good assets, but now we have 14 and 15 under contract that we're going to close on, right? Wow. And so instead of having 100% of 2 deals, I have, let's call it 30% of 15 deals. You just do the math, right? And I have a team that does a lot of the stuff with me, and I have partners that these are people I most of them are friends and family who I care about and love, and this is an asset that's going to get them 20 to 50% on their money where they were stuck in a 401k for single digit returns. You know what I mean? Like there's an abundance piece of it that feels good. Every man I've talked to, like I'm talking about every person I've talked to that they ask me what I do. I've always wanted to get into storage. Like I always drive by and think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So we make that a reality for people that really like they would just be dreaming about that their whole life. Instead, we're like, yeah, like come on in, take a piece. It's fun.
I think it's really powerful that it's like you could have done this on your own, but allowing others to participate in what you're doing has been the difference of working on deal 2 today versus about to close deals 14 and 15. Like that's what that is you saying like, I'm not going to do this by myself.
Well, and why does it work? It works because you have the legal structure and the who does what structure ironed out from the beginning. Right. So you have everything planned out from before the deal even comes to life. And I think I've been like approached about partnering on my moving company where there's just so many moving parts. And it's not a really good idea for me to partner there because you'll never be able to put in equal amounts of work on something. Like it just doesn't happen. Like people that come to me and they say, I just started a business. I'm 50-50 with my brother, or me and 4 buddies, we're going in and we're taking 20% each of this business and we're all just going to pitch in and help. I just wince. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you're going to be screwed in a couple months. like it's so hard to have, like, we're all just going to work equally. That is a total fallacy and myth, where in a storage deal, it's like, no, like we can cut up the pie so carefully. Like here's the work piece, here's the capital piece, here's the finder's fee, here's the operations. Like you have everything ironed out. And I love that about self-storage is it's so much easier to partner on because it's so much easier to chop up who's doing what.
Oh, really good stuff. What questions do you got, man? Freaking Ben is just on fire today, crushing it with all the information, all the things.
I'm just lucky I found people who are willing to listen to me. Like I just have to cut myself off when I'm talking storage. the randoms.
You mentioned the inner circle. So Ben's been a part of our inner circle since 2021, I think. You're the OG at this point. You just need a gray beard just to show your wisdom. Can you talk a bit of what does education mean to you in business and doing all of this, not just storage but everything? And then I guess my second part of that question would be, how do you education is of course important, but how do you also not have education hold you up from taking action?
So, I mean, I wouldn't even know how to structure a partnership if I wasn't for joining the inner circle. Like all that stuff I just rattled off, that's not stuff I came up with. Like that's the playbook that other people have taught me. And there's so many different ways to skin a cat, as I like to say, but you got to have someone kind of telling you where to start, right? And so, I think we love it when people reach out to us, send us a DM or call us, and just so we can be that education piece. But the inner circle for me fast tracked that, right? So we joined the inner circle and we were able to ask questions. I remember when I first came in, I don't know if you remember that group, but man, I feel like I was surrounded by geniuses and I did not know what was going on. And it was good for me because it rubbed off on me. And now, like you said, like I'm the guy that's been in the inner circle the longest, and I still get new stuff. Like I have to show up, I have to be a part of the calls and listen and take notes still, but I'm still learning all the time, right? And so I think we talk about speed and how the next 18 months is the window. It's like, yeah, if you're just winging it, you might learn it, but it'll probably be like after the window's closed, and not closed forever, of course. But that's the principle: is speed is why you do education. It's not for it's not so you're the smartest guy. It's so you can get what you want to get done faster. And then I'd say, how does it hold you up from acting? Massive imperfect action, right? Like you just have to go for it. And I think you need to have people in your circle that can help steer you away or warn you of bad decisions. But if no one's telling you, hey, there's something I see here, if everyone's saying, yeah, like go for it, this is solid, then it's really a fun thing to just take the leap, learn in the air, and ready, fire, aim. And so there's been a lot of that where every deal we've learned a new lesson, and we feel like we're just barely getting to the point where we know the basic playbook after coming up on 15 deals.
Yeah, no, that's so funny. I always talk about how like after every deal we would do when I was with Bitterroot and Cedar and all the guys, it was like, all right, we got our processes, like we're good to go. Got some things dialed in. Then the next thing comes along, and you're like, all right, there's more processes and more different things to do. It just changes all the time, which is fun. It's cool to be able to navigate those things, solve the problems, work with the team, all of that. Talking about speed and time, dude. And we touched on this a little bit earlier too. Like the most valuable things to spend your time on. If you were getting started right now today, what would be the most valuable things that you would focus on to go and find deals and get deals done? Well, I shouldn't say I need to stop saying find deals, make deals, because you can't just find them. But make deals and grow and scale and get deals going.
Yeah, I mean, besides connecting with people, right? Like the self storage income ecosystem is great for that, and just reaching out to other people. Someone's willing to help you, right? So finding a mentor, and even if some people aren't or like they have less time, it's worth it because the worst case scenario is a no. The best case scenario is someone helps you make millions and millions of dollars for maybe they don't ask for anything in return. They're just happy to help you because they might be where you're going to be in a couple years, right? So I think mentors, friends, colleagues, networking is a big deal. Education is a big deal. I think reps, right? Finding really is where you're going to make your money if you're bootstrapping. And so whether it's you and a VA, like that's where I would probably start, is just getting reps. On market deals are obviously going to be tougher to get across the finish line, but just practice underwriting on market deals. You really can't there is no silver bullet, like you said. So when people ask, how are you finding these deals? It's always a mix. right? Like it's always like, oh, well, there's some from our VA and some from our social media and some from on market, and some from Facebook, you know what I mean? Like, and some from wholesalers. There's no one way to find deals. It just comes back to using correct finding principles. And when you do have opportunities, making the most of them.
I love that.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal, dude. Well, and like moving forward, like what are things that keep you up at night, man? Like what are the biggest fears? Like what are you most afraid of? How are you planning for those things? You talked about like pulling things out of people on podcasts for the first time. I want to hear it, man. Like nitty gritty. What keeps Ben up at night, dude?
Oh, I have a lot of confidence in the future, and what keeps me up at night. I have a really high stress tolerance, but I think it's just quality, right? So like I said, a lot of these partners are my loved ones and people that have put a lot of trust in me. So I mean, I'm just making sure that we deliver on every promise we make, right? And that's what I really really care about is our future is bright. We're on the path, the trajectory to get where we need to go. It's just making sure everyone comes along for the ride, right? And so that's really what my focus is on is hey, we have momentum, we have the infrastructure in place for the next deals, and now I'm just focused on hey, let's make sure that nothing slips through the cracks on our existing deals so we can maximize the returns on those as we're building the path forward.
Love it.
It's a fun ride.
Yeah, no, it is, dude. It is super fun. And the last thing I had is like biggest mistake, man, that you've made. Like, what would you say is the biggest mistake that you were like, dude, this is not something we should have done, and that you would obviously do different moving forward?
Well, I mean, we talked a lot about deal two, right? Which was the deal where we bought at the peak of the market. We saw AJ on YouTube converting Kmart's and thought that looks pretty easy, right? Like that's got to be cheaper. It's got to be cheaper than just building a facility from scratch, right? And the market's going bonkers. Like, why wouldn't the market keep going bonkers, right? And so I think that was my reality check, where my first deal was a very lucrative success, and it taught me the upside of storage, right? It taught me, oh, shoot, you can make seven figures of equity in a very short amount of time. That deal made me a millionaire. And then deal two, riding that high, was like, oh, maybe we overlooked certain things that we should have looked into. We also cut corners on builder and architect that really bit us in the butt. And so you ask about my biggest mistake, that would be it. What we did was we shrunk the scope. We worked on the fly to get tenants, right? This is the story where we bought two warehouses, and instead of converting both into storage units, we're going to do 100,000 square feet. We just did half of it, and we're renting out the other warehouse. And so we had to adapt. We've had to work. I've had to knock doors to fill those spots, right? And I'm probably going to, just to be completely vulnerable, I'm probably going to give up. I put a lot of money into the LP side, and so I'm probably going to end up keeping the GP side, but the money that I put into the LP side, I'm probably going to end up dividing it up amongst my partners just to deliver on the promises I made to them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Good on you. Good on you for getting it done, dude. Take care of people. Do the thing.
That was my master's degree. That was my education because I stopped at a bachelor's degree. So that deal was, we always call it the master's degree. All my team, oh yeah, that was the master's degree. Congrats.
You took that though, Ben, like we call it a mistake, but it's more of like a lesson, right? Because you took things from it, and you did your the end result is maybe it didn't work out financially for you individually, but you're making sure that others who came alongside with you for the ride were taken care of. But then also, like, investing involves risks, right? Like that's what you're signing up for by doing this. And there's also risks in keeping all your money in your bank account or in a safe and doing nothing. And so, like, that's deal two that you said was where your biggest lesson or mistake or whatever you want to call it was. But now you're 13 deals later. So it's like, yes, there are things that it's like maybe you would have done it differently now, but it didn't just like, you didn't just like be like, I'm going to go work at a corporate job and give up on this. Like, you allowed it to you became better by going through that.
Yeah, own up to your mistakes, right? Like if we talked about this in Oregon as well, is like if someone's telling you that they've never made a mistake,
Red flag.
they're either a liar or they're a rookie who, if they really haven't made a mistake, they haven't done big enough things. They haven't done big enough projects, right? Like mistakes will come. It's important to look into the mirror. It's important to work with people who are owning up to that, right? And I feel like we have learned, and all of our deals have I'm happy to report they've all gone really well since then. That one we were able to save it, you know what I mean? But like it was something that has benefited our entire direction, because what if we would have had a really lucrative success and kept going bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like it could have ended up being worse than it was. So while that's something to think about, something that we could talk about as a big mistake, like the timing was good because it really leveled us out from that high of of deal one. Deal two was a great second experience to have, because if I would have had my biggest deal 15, if that would have been the one that went south, maybe that would have had worse consequences.
No, Ben, thanks so much for sharing, man, and thanks so much for taking the time and spending it with us today. I know time's valuable, and you got deals to get done, dude. It's time to make some hay. So, any parting words of wisdom, and then also, how can people connect with you if they'd like to get in touch with you or your team?
Yeah, we love it when people reach out. Like we're still trying to learn and grow and connect, and I love partnering up with people too. So reach out to Big Storage Ventures. Just sending us a DM on Instagram. That's probably the best way to connect. And we'd be happy to get on a call with anyone. I just from the last podcast where I went on, there was a lot of people that reached out, and talking to those people that are all over the country in different situations has been a real treat for us. So I would love that. Parting words, let's get in the game. Like I'm not saying that I'm not trying to create a scarcity mentality like storage is going anywhere, but I would probably be willing to say that the next 18 months may be the best opportunity you'll have in your entire life. I don't know. That I would probably, if I was going to put money on it, that's what I would say. But I would love to encourage anyone who's listening to get in the game, choose excellence over perfection, and I think that would serve you well.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Hey, thank you guys. I got two juggernauts. This was fun. I really have a lot of respect for you guys. You guys do a lot for the community at Self Storage Income. So thanks for putting this together, and thanks for all the events and all the good memories. We came in, you guys were just guys on the Cedar Creek team, and now you guys are really good friends of mine. So thank you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Appreciate you. All right, Ben, we'll see you next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you all on the next one.